All right, and I think we're ready. So we are live now. My name is Julie Newsom, and I'm the president of CivCom. We're creating a series of videos that are designed to help current military families prepare for their civilian reintegration. So there's just information out there, best practices that would make it much easier for them to avoid what we're calling the pit of chaos. And this is one of those videos. I'm pleased to bring to you my professor that helped me understand how to do strategic career search, because if it were not for her, I would be out there just sort of trial and error and wasting a lot of time in potentially careers that were not beneficial for me. But I'm confident I'm on the right career path, and it's in no small part to the education
Great.
that I got from you, Amy. So if you would please
Sure.
introduce
So,
yourself to our
my
audience.
name is Amy Wrzesniewski. I'm a professor of organizational behavior here at the Yale School of Management at Yale University. I study questions related to people's career trajectories over time, and in particular, I'm interested in how people think about the meaning of the work they're doing and the differences that those meanings make for them and for their organizations.
I'll just jump right into it. Your research was so important to me because it just breaks it out simply into the idea of the job, the career, and the calling.
Yeah.
And uh, just so everyone knows, this is our second time doing this video because I'm learning and I didn't know how easy it was to delete videos from YouTube. So Amy is uh, again being hugely supportive in helping us to do this again. But the point that I made last time and that I'm refining now is that I think everyone should know what their calling is. There's no guarantee that there'll be an opportunity for you to do that. And you might have to do some mixing of the job, the career, and the calling in order to make a living for yourself. But you should at least know and have some confidence about what that calling in is. And before, I was definitely going down the road of you should be pursuing your calling at, exclusion to everything else. And you sort of walked me back off that ledge. If you
Yes.
wanted to expand on that, that would be great.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that what I would say about the different orientations toward work is that what we find is that people who view the work that they're doing as a calling, meaning they tend to rather than primarily working as a means to a financial end or as a means to career advancement, they're primarily focused on the fulfillment that they get from the work itself and from a view of the work as contributing to the world in some way or contributing to others in some way. And that for them is really the primary bond, if you will, that they have to the work that they're doing. It's not that making a living isn't important or things like that, but they really connect with the work on that level. We know that they're more satisfied with their work, obviously. They're more satisfied with their lives. They're more engaged behaviorally with the work that they do. There are a lot of positive benefits that flow from this. And that said, you sort of raise in your question an interesting frame, which is, everybody's got a calling and ideally they can figure out a way to work in it. I actually would suggest that that kind of frame can be quite stressful in terms of trying to figure out, well, what is, as though callings are sort of like a magical entity that are waiting to be discovered, sort of as if, they're kind of, if you search hard enough, you can find it. I think that, what I would encourage people to think about is what kind of effort, problem, sort of solution to a problem, effort to work on a problem or an opportunity is so engaging for you that you are happy to put in lots of work and time and energy on it because, again, it's something that sort of takes you beyond the self in a way that it's not about how much fun did I have today, how much did I enjoy that today, and so on. But to your point, too, callings are people who have strong callings, are at risk, I would say, of being completely absorbed in their work. And so thinking about how to balance that with other views of work, perhaps, or other ways of moderating the relationship with work could also be quite wise.
Yeah, I mean, my own experience, having been in the military, starting out immediately after high school, then becoming an officer, then working in industry, and now working in this nonprofit, I can tell you, I didn't understand the notion of flow until now. The idea where you're doing work and you just lose track of time. Like that is the perfect explanation of what happens. But you're absolutely right. It becomes this balance. You can become consumed by it. Many a times, my friends will have to say, "Okay, we're going to the beach. That's it," because you're so into it, and there's the right way it needs to be done, and those sorts of things. So, I think that notion of balance, is a really important one, and there is no manual to this. Like there is no, if you do this,
No.
this will happen. But and an awareness of like, okay, here are the things that I like, here's what the market is looking for, and here's what I can do as hobbies. What's the combination I can do that leads towards
Yes.
self-actualization for me?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, we chatted before, and everyone that knows me knows I'm passionate about this notion of college being for everyone. I think, the more I, dig into this and think about it, it just becomes so obvious to me. Right now, the job market is continuing to change at a rate that it's almost dizzying to keep up with, right? Humans have two abilities, cognitive and physical, and we now have machines to compete with us for
Hmm.
both. So when it comes to work, you know, the opportunity to just go somewhere and work for the next until you're 65, where you can then retire, may not that opportunity may not be there at one company. So you're going to have several jobs, just independent of whether or not you want to look for different jobs. You might have to look for
Yes.
different jobs, and the options you're going to have seems to be much more with a college degree than it is when you don't have a college degree. So telling 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds to attach their financial future to welding or whatever trade there is just seems irresponsible. And I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well.
It's a great question. I if the goal is sort of security of income, assurance that you have built a flexible set of skills for a workforce that's, as you put it very nicely, evolving rapidly. The data are quite clear that people who have a college education fare better during downturns. They make more from the point of view of salary in terms of lifetime earnings and so on. And while it's also true that certain trades sort of pay very well, have featured sort of high levels of job security for some time, I think you raise an important point, which is, are those potentially the jobs that are at most risk of being destabilized over time? And the Bureau of Labor Statistics has for many decades now furnished lots of data on which occupations are disappearing, and it's I think it's well worth paying attention to, and it's well worth just knowing the data that if you look at the impact on earnings over a lifetime, it'd be hard to imagine that you wouldn't be encouraging either your children or veterans preparing to leave the military or what have you to invest in a college education to the extent that they possibly can.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about, okay, go into the right colleges, colleges that aren't ridiculously expensive. Potentially choosing the right major instead of a major that, does no financial benefit, for you at all. I love the way that you talk about, if the goal is the financial outcome, yeah, I'm comfortable saying that I'm going to back myself into that corner and say, look, I really just want you in a situation
Right.
where you're not, at 65 and just struggling for the remainder of your days
Right.
on the planet. Financial advisors are encouraging people to have $1 million saved up by the time you're 65 years old. Otherwise, you're going to have challenges thereafter
Okay.
because you're not working anymore.
Right.
How do you de-risk that pre-65 earning time? Sure, you can go out and maybe code and you can get into the right startup, that makes you a millionaire. All right, well, then you're off the table and have at it. But that's not where the majority of people are going. And I think the starting point should be, okay, here is the path that has the least risk the most options.
Right.
And that's the one, you want not only the options, but a plan to say, and that plan can, consider your satisfaction and how you're fulfilled and all those sorts of things.
Yes.
But you have a reasonably, relatively,
Yes.
as can be, risk-free plan that gets you to 65 and
Yes.
being retired and happy.
Yeah. I want to sort of jump in there on something in that I'm glad you brought up sort of, well, how is it that you feel about the work itself? Because you could imagine, and I've seen this happen to college undergrads, over the many years that I've been teaching in universities, that where they're basically sort of handed a set of majors by parents and told you can major in any one of these because we know that you'll have a high-paying job, and there will always be sort of work for you that you can do once you've majored in this, and where they're despondent because none of it is interesting to them. They despair at the thought of a career sort of spent decades, in doing this kind of work, even if they're switching jobs. And like you said, they don't necessarily feel guaranteed that they'll be in the same organization. And so I do feel like paying a lot of attention to what do you really care about and are you really interested in? And is there some way that you can figure out how you could sort of make a living working in that area of deep interest? And I think part of what the college education does is it gives you options for how it is you might end up pursuing that. But if you've only pursued it because it checks a box on income potential, but it does nothing for you from the point of view of motivating you or interesting you, then I think that the risk there is that you're kind of throwing money into a pit because it's not likely that you're going to last in an occupation that you're in. And I remember being an undergrad. Every one of my friends who were pursuing majors because they felt like there would be a big financial payoff, but they didn't actually like anything about it, to a person had gone through radical shifts in the kind of work they were doing within 10 years of graduating. So, it's kind of a, think about it now, think about it later, or pay me now or pay me later kind of question. But I'm glad you brought both sides of that.
Yeah, because I think it's, and I think Professor Kaplan would appreciate this. You don't have to eliminate that variable, right? Like your satisfaction matters. So, you want to optimize for all of these things, both income and your satisfaction, because, we're only going to get 100 years, running around the sun. You want to make sure that it's enjoyable, right? And to throw 40 of them away doing something that's just drudgery and, 40 of your best, no less, it's just like, why would you want to do that? So,
yes.
So yeah, then let's, talking about that future self, I'd like to then take it to you. And what do you see for yourself in your future going forward?
So that's a great question. I think, so to get sort of biographical for a second, I have been doing research and, engaged in studies of work and meaning and teaching for this fall will start my 24th year. And so it's maybe a good time, right? Kind of at the halfway point, as it were, to think about this a bit. So if anything, I feel like in terms of future self, I have only become more interested in the kinds of questions that I study. I was already, I think, sort of maxed out in terms of how fascinating I found research and how valuable I thought the answers could be from the point of view of giving really good insight into what it is that makes work rather worthwhile for people to do and gives them a much better quality of life from the point of view of their experience of that. And what I can foresee for myself is and part of this has come out of options that have become open to me and so on, is realizing that I really kind of live for the research side of this, and that getting involved in things that are more practitioner oriented or what have you, while impactful, I'm realizing that I would actually much rather leave that to people for whom that is their passion, or they feel particularly drawn to that kind of work. And so I see myself trying very hard, as in thinking about my future self, to create even more of an impact in these areas of inquiry through my teaching, but also very much through the kind of research that I'm doing.
I fully get that, because I toyed around for a while with, okay, do I want to go into academia and push the frontier of human knowledge? And I have several friends that are scientists and researchers and things like that. And I know for a fact I do not at all want to do any of that. You know, there are people that will do that work. And what's, really what would be frustrating for me, I think, is like being in a lab and like 90% of my experiments are not working and they are not coming to conclusions that I would have thought. That's just not me. What is awesome though is when there are people that are doing that and I'm aware of that 1% that does work and is actually relevant to a larger group of people and turning that into something that's actionable for people. I love that.
Yeah.
I love being able to take what ideas I got from you and then spreading that to a larger group of people and saying, hey, this is there are all sorts of paths, but the wrong paths outnumber the right paths. Here's one that works for you and here's how you continue to manage it. So yeah, I'm glad you're going to stay there and finding the good ideas, and then I'm going to stay close to you and help bring them to the masses.
Yeah. It creates a
What's
really
up?
healthy system.
No, go ahead. Good.
And I was going to say, it creates a really healthy system of, what are the insights that are coming out of the work, and how does that then translate into the teaching? And then how do people who would really like to take, these ideas and have them inform the work that they're doing to change the world, as you are, if those ideas can be helpful to that effort, then it's enormously gratifying, I think, to people in the world of research when this happens.
Awesome. So, what would you say to yourself, 24 years ago as you were starting out on this journey? Is there any advice that you could give? Because I'm sure there are some people in the military or that are watching this. We also have supportive civilians as well, that use the work we're doing to inform their path. So I'm sure there's some folks that are thinking about the life of research and weighing it against something else. Is there any guidance you would give to them?
So I'm conscious of sounding sort of preachy, but what I would say is that what I would have told myself is to just trust my interest in this, and to not that I did, but to not fear that it might not work out, but to just keep going and immersing myself in the things that were interesting to me. So, I was a psychology major. Psychology majors are roundly historically sort of denigrated, I think, in many circles, that it's a degree where you'll never make any money, and that there's no security in this, and so on. But I knew it was the thing that fascinated me most deeply, to the exclusion of almost everything else. And so I just kept going sort of with this thought of, surely there's something I should be able to do with this degree where I could actually use it. And because I was so interested in it, I got immersed in research. When I got immersed in research, that opened up opportunities to continue studying in a way where my studies were supported through the PhD, which then led to faculty roles. And there's no way I ever could have guessed that it would have worked out the way that it did. But the thing that I would have held to, and that I would encourage other people to hold to, is if you know there's something that really fascinates you, to not desert that, to put your effort into sort of learning more about it, but then also learning how can you work in that area or do something with that serves the world, but also is something that you can immensely enjoy. And, worrying about money is sort of the primary thing. It turns out, people's well-being, their experience of the quality of their life, and so on, is very much affected by how much they make, up to a certain point. And that point is not necessarily as high as people might expect, and that beyond that, additional earnings don't do a whole lot for people's experience of their satisfaction or their happiness. So, chasing lots of money, I don't think is ultimately a great idea. Chasing sort of enough money so that you can survive and you're not on the edge of difficult things happening. Obviously, that matters quite a bit. But I think let the things that interest you sort of take care of the rest.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I was in that situation actually at Yale. I don't know if I told you the story, but we were I was at Yale in 2008 when the financial crisis was happening. And the majority of business school students are going into banking. right? Like some sort of investment banking, and I didn't. I was going out and I was going to work at Dow.
Right.
And I remember, and I have to find them actually, but I reached out to one of the investment bankers and I was like, I have this opportunity at Dow. It's great. It's a great company, but everybody else is going into banking. Am I missing something? And he's like, listen, I'm a managing director. I don't know if I'm going to have a job in a bit. You have an amazing company that's looking out for you and that actually wants you. Go there, continue doing what you're doing and learning there. So I think also with that interest, like having, the confidence in your interest, but also talk to other people and get that feedback. Take advantage of those other perspectives from people that you trust. That'll help you, I think stay focused on your interests, which, I do believe that your interests, in addition to the money and meaning and purpose and using your talent, all of those things brought together, will wind up helping you have a fulfilling life.
Yes.
So I'm conscious of time. We have to run. Would you like any final comments for the remainder of the chat here?
So I'll sign off, I guess, by just saying, what I feel is such a critically important role you're playing in a very difficult and under-supported, under-attended to sort of transition that affects so many people who have sacrificed an enormous amount to serve. I'm thrilled that you're focused on this. I'm thrilled that you're trying to bring as much support, information, expertise, and resources to people so that they can make as productive a transition as they possibly can into work that they will find valuable and meaningful, and that they will be both rewarded but also valued for. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Amy, for making yourself available. Your thought leadership is hugely helpful, and we are getting results from a lot of people saying thank you so much for the work you're doing. So
great.
Thank you. We'll chat again.
All righty. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.